The Tolkien Road, Episode 66, The Lord of the Rings, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. All right, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 the Tolkien Road. Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, we continue through The Lord of the Rings with Book 2, Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. Before we get started, why not hop on over to iTunes and leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback? It's a great way to show your support for the show and takes less than a minute. Thanks for listening, and enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tolkien Road. John here. Greta, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Awesome.
A little shorter chapter this time, huh?
Yeah.
Much shorter.
Much shorter and pretty exciting, too.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the most exciting chapters in the book. So.
Yep, some iconic moments happen in here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I mean, I don't see any reason to waste any time. Why don't we just get started and talking about it? Yeah, let's do it. So, where we left off last time, the Fellowship had been journeying through Moria,
right,
for some time. In fact, It was a journey of somewhere around 40 miles.
Yeah.
40 miles.
In the dark.
Yeah, in the dark. So through all these, through this very windy, treacherous pathway.
Yep.
And they had gone this way because they had to escape. It was really the only way to get across the Misty Mountains that they figured.
They figured it was going to be
their path to Mordor.
It was going to be the path that the enemy would least suspect.
Yeah.
And it just made the most sense.
Yeah. And so the kind of cliffhanger it was left on was that they discovered Balin's tomb.
Right.
Balin the dwarf, who had led a group of dwarves to attempt to recover this ancient dwarf kingdom under the Misty Mountains of Moria. And he had led this group. Now, Balin was, of course, one of the hobbits one of the dwarves in The Hobbit.
Right.
He was in fact, he was probably the closest with Bilbo. And so Balin had come back here to try and restore this old kingdom, and to probably try to discover some mithril, which is this valuable element. Yeah. But unfortunately, we learned that Balin had died at some point.
Yes.
So we discovered Balin's tomb, and that's where we left off. And now they're in Balin's tomb, trying to figure out what happened.
Well, they're not in the tomb, are they?
They're in the room that contains the tomb, which is
in
called
the hall that contains the tomb.
Yeah, which is called the Chamber of Records.
Right.
The Chamber of Records. And they find this book. They find a book, and actually the Dwarvish word is Mazarbul, which is, Gimli says, Chamber of Records. But they find this book, and it's kind of in disrepair, but it's a record of their time there, and it's unfortunately it kind of tells it's like an ongoing diary of the demise of these dwarves.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of in a way creepy to read, because it's almost
bittersweet, I think, because at least then they didn't have to wonder, right?
Yeah.
What happened.
I don't know. I wouldn't use the term bittersweet. That makes it sound like there's something nice about it, but it just sounds kind of like...
I think there is, because it's closure for...
Well, maybe it provides some closure. I don't know.
Sweet is maybe too strong of a positive word, but
I would say maybe bitter but necessary, or bitter but helpful.
Bitter but helpful. There you go. That's good. That's good. I'll take that.
Yeah. So talks about they drove out orcs from the Great Gate and Guard. We slew many in the Bright, and so there's it's kind of this disjointed narrative, talking about how they discover these orcs, so these orcs discover them, and they're trying to beat them back.
Right.
And then we also find out that they think it was written in Ori's hand. Ori was one of the other dwarves that accompanied Bilbo to the Lonely Mountain.
Who is also most likely dead.
Oh yeah.
But he doesn't have a tomb like Balin.
Right. They don't find his tomb anywhere. So however, we do find out that they discovered Mithril, and we also hear Oin's name, who was another one of the dwarves.
That Balin and his crew had found.
Right.
Mithril.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
We also find out that that we get a name for the thing that had attacked the Fellowship right as they were entering under the mountain. Right. We get a name for this the big serpentine thing that had attacked them.
Oh, that's right. We do.
The Watcher in the Water.
Yes, the Watcher in the Water.
And apparently, the Watcher in the Water got Oin.
Yes, that's right. Okay, which is probably why he wasn't buried in a tomb.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just these ominous lines. We cannot get out. They are coming. We cannot get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like the dwarves were finally kind of holed into this chamber, and that's where they met their demise. That's where the last of them met their demise at the hands of the orcs and whoever else.
So do you think this was? I mean, they came back to this place on purpose, right, to try and reestablish this dwarf kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So did they know that it was a possibility that this kind of thing, could happen? I mean, it seems like you wouldn't go back to a place and try to start a kingdom where you knew that you would eventually be killed by orcs. Or is this just kind of a part of the movement of the spread of the evil from Mordor? Do you understand what I'm asking?
I think it's part of the movement of evil, because some of these, Gandalf later surmises that some of these orcs are orcs of Mordor. But I think I'm sure they expected trouble, because they had been thrown out of Moria. Dwarves had been thrown out of Moria, or had abandoned Moria before because of problems like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had to know that they were going into a treacherous place, and they're dwarves, so they're not like frightened of that necessarily. They're not afraid of going up against it, especially if there's Mithril involved, right? Which I think is their,
That was really the draw.
Yeah.
Then, okay, that makes sense.
I think there was some pride in it too.
Well,
just wanting to
probably
reestablish this kingdom.
Yeah, to go back to the place of your forefathers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you don't think they realized at the time that they were sacrificing themselves, that this is where they would meet their end?
Oh, I don't think they intended to sacrifice themselves. No, I don't think they expected to all die. I thought they would. I think they were intending to go back and reestablish this ancient dwarvish kingdom and create a new home for dwarves. And they've probably been emboldened by the fact that they had defeated Smaug. That they defeated Smaug and reclaimed the Lonely Mountain for the dwarves. Remember, there was what's his name? I think it's Dain. Is the king under the mountain right now, right? And he came back at the end of The Hobbit after the Battle of the Five Armies and everything. They reestablished the dwarvish kingdom there, so they're probably like, hey, we did it there, maybe we can go do it in Moria now, right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
So they were probably a little bit emboldened by that.
But the fact that they were all going to die at the hand of orcs was not at the forefront of their mind.
I mean, it was a risk.
They knew it was a risk.
They knew it was a risk, yeah, but I don't think it's something they intended.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, they surmise enough. They figure out enough of what happened here, and they're still, they know that they can't just linger for very long. So they're like, all right, well, maybe it's time we move on. And pretty much as soon as they decide to move on from this hall, they hear a big boom.
Right.
Hold on. Let's pause for just a second. Speaking of booms. All right, where were we? Talking about booms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doom boom.
Yep. So there's a big boom as soon as they decide to leave this hall. There's a big boom, and then they start hearing these drums much more clearly. The drums they've been hearing since Pippin had dropped something into the well.
Right. Yes.
A while back.
Right.
They sprang toward the door in alarm. Doom, doom, it rolled again, as if huge hands were turning the very caverns of Moria into a vast drum. Then there came an echoing blast. A great horn was blown in the hall, and answering horns and harsh cries were heard further off. There was a hurrying sound of many feet. "They are coming," cried Legolas. "We cannot get out," said Gimli. "Trapped," cried Gandalf. So I like that. I like that little the rhythm of that.
Mm-hmm.
"They're coming," cried Legolas. "We cannot get out," said Gimli. Because it's like they're recalling the words that they've just read.
That's right. They are.
In the record book, right?
You're right.
It's like, uh-oh, now we're them.
Yeah. It's a bit ironic.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, so they try to make they realize they can't just run out right this second, so they try to make a little stand here in this hall.
Yes.
Gandalf, Aragorn tries to close the doors, and Gandalf says, "Wait just a moment." And he yells out into the hall, he yells out, "Who comes hither to disturb the rest of Balin, Lord of Moria?" And then there's this rush of hoarse laughter, like the fall of sliding stones into a pit. I was trying to think of what this sounds like, because I felt like that was very descriptive.
Horse
and I was like,
laughter.
Horse laughter, like the fall of sliding stones into a pit. So I'm like, I was thinking it's like kind of a...
Yeah, probably a little bit more scratch to it.
Yeah.
A little bit more... to me, like, that sounds... Like, I know it wouldn't be this shrill, but it's almost like a nails on chalkboard kind of sound, probably.
Yeah.
Like, just very grating and cringeworthy.
Yeah. Probably not quite as high pitched.
No, not as high pitched, but kind of in that same scope of sound. Like, not pleasing to the ear at all. Like, just that makes your kind of this hair in the back of your neck.
That's the timbre of it, but it's a lower tone.
Right, it's a lower tone, but that's the tone. I mean, a lower tone, but that's, it would not be a nice sound to hear. Yeah. I think it would kind of make you freeze and go, ah!
Right. Yeah. And they realize there are orcs, very many of them, and some are large and evil, black uruks of Mordor.
So where did they come from? Were they just, like, hanging out, like, under the mountain?
It would
or
seem
did they
so.
just magically, like, appear? That's what I don't understand. Like, so you think they were just hanging out?
Yeah.
Under the mountain, just waiting to pounce?
But remember, I mean, this is a vast area. Right. This is a vast little kingdom they have under here. Right. It's not like it's just I don't know. I mean, this think about 40 miles and how far down. It's 40 miles wide that they just, and then the mountains go for maybe thousands of miles north to south. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and then it goes deep, right? It goes really deep.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I can't remember if it's in this chapter, if it was the last chapter, or where it talks about that they delved too deep. The dwarves delved too deep, looking for more mithril.
Oh, yeah. They disturbed the slumber of the orcs.
Yeah, or of something else, Durin's bane. Right?
Yeah.
So they're trapped in the chamber of Mazarbul. And there's a bunch of orcs and apparently a cave troll coming. And the orcs start attacking. Just a moment. Thought I had closed that. Yeah, so the orcs start attacking. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Frodo feels this hot wrath blaze up in his heart. He cries, "The Shire!" And he springs forward and stabs at this orc's foot. Or maybe it's the troll's foot.
I think it's the troll's foot. 'Cause it says it was flat and toeless, and it had greenish scales.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it had, like, black drops.
Yeah.
Dripped from the blade. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty.
But I love. Were you gonna say something else?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I was just bringing out the grossness of it all.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's totally gross.
Confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you love what?
The Shire. I love that he cries like
The Shire.
like Frodo. Here they are, kind of like scared of what's coming, and then all of a sudden Frodo feels this surge of like, just emotion, some kind of emotion, and he just cries. He just cries out, "The Shire!" And I don't know. There's it's beautiful to me. And later on in the chapter, I think it's Boromir does the same thing when he cries Gondor and does something similar. But
it's that love of home.
Yeah. It's that and it's that recollection of why he's,
what he's doing this for.
Kind of the tangible good, like he's doing it for good in general, but there's a tangible good in which he's doing it for as well, right? And that's his home, the place he loves, and the innocence of the people there, and and their protection. And it's just almost this righteous indignation, that moves into act. So this, I don't know. There's something beautiful about this righteous anger, this hot wrath that blazes up in his heart.
Yes, I agree.
And something similar happens with Sam just a few sentences later. When 13 had fallen, the rest fled shrieking, leaving the defenders unharmed, except for Sam, who had a scratch along the scalp. A quick duck had saved him, and he had felled his orc. A sturdy thrust with his barrow blade. A fire was smoldering in his brown eyes that would have made Ted Sandyman step backwards if he had seen it.
Who's Ted Sandyman?
Ted Sandyman was like a guy one of the hobbits back in the Shire, who...
Is he kind of sketchy?
Yeah. Actually, I think he was... Was he back in the Shire? I think he was back in the Shire. I think he was somebody who just like gave Sam a hard time all the time. Let's see.
Okay.
Go back here and look real quick. I think it's if I remember, he was the one that like gave Sam a hard time when he would talk about it's like from the first chapter.
That's
yeah, here we go.
Introduced that much, but...
Yeah, it's yeah, here we go. So in the first chapter, I think they're sitting in the Green Dragon. And I heard, and this is Ted Sandyman talking to the Gaffer, which is Sam's father. And I heard she pushed him in. They're talking about the death of Frodo's parents. And Ted Sandyman says, and I heard she pushed him in and he pulled her in after him, said Sandyman, the Hobbiton Miller. And then the Gaffer says, "You shouldn't listen to all you hear, Sandyman," said the Gaffer, who did not much like the Miller. "There isn't no call to go talking of pushing and pulling. Boats are quite tricky enough for those that sit still without looking further for the cause of trouble. Anyway, there was this Mr. Frodo left an orphan and stranded." Yada, yada, yada. So Sandyman is just kind of this...
kind of a punk.
Kind of a punk, yeah. He's just this punk of the Shire who likes picking on... Like he's kind of sounds like he's kind of a cynic.
Yeah.
Just sarcastic and kind of, just spitefully mean, especially to those he feels superior to, which, he probably felt superior to Sam and Sam's family.
So if he had been in front of Sam at this moment, Sam could have taken him, like, no problem.
Oh, yeah, this is basically saying that, Ted would have been scared of Sam.
Right.
And then... diving under Aragorn's blow with the speed of a striking snake, he charged into the company and thrust with his spear straight at Frodo. So this is talking about the orc chieftain that breaks through.
Right. The
blow caught him on the right side, and Frodo was hurled against the wall and pinned. Sam, with a cry, hacked at the spear shaft, and it broke. So Frodo is attacked and thrown against the wall, and we're a little worried about Frodo, but he has the mithril mail on, so...
Which nobody knows at this point, right? In fact, even Gandalf and Aragorn, who picks up Frodo, carries him out, they think he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I think they're all like, whoa. How did you survive that?
Yeah. Where is it? They say...
Say what?
Oh, I was looking for something. Oh yeah, Aragorn says, "I thought you were dead," and Gandalf says, "Not yet, but there is no time for wonder." off you go, all of you down the stairs. Wait for a minute for me at the bottom. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because, there's that famous little dialogue. Didn't they know he was wearing the mithril at this point? In the movie, they don't know. But I feel like I'm getting that confounded with here, because they had been talking about the gift of the mithril mail.
Right, but no, I don't think they knew, because I think when they were talking about mithril, Frodo, he didn't say anything. Like, he realizes the value of what he's wearing. Mm-hmm. Right, he realizes its great significance, but he doesn't say anything. We talked about that last episode.
Okay.
So he So
it's his little secret.
Right. So that they know. So they know that Bilbo was given some. Mm-hmm. Because even Gimli is like, oh my, what a kingly gift.
Right.
But they don't know that Bilbo then gave it to Frodo and that he's wearing it.
Okay. All right.
Which is why they think they were all surprised that he was still in such good shape after that. They may suspect it, but to my knowledge, they don't know. And I think Frodo wants it that way for now. So.
Yeah. So they escape. They finally leave this little hall, and they're continuing. They're basically in flight to the east, down the stairs.
Right.
In flight to the east. They still have a little ways to go.
Right.
Before they can escape out of the mountains onto the other side of the mountains.
Right.
And but they start feeling like this heat and this fire start to well up, kind of generally around, the area they're in. Mm-hmm. And they're not really sure what's going on, but they continue running. And then then Gandalf feels this presence at one point. He says, "As I stood there, I could hear orc voices on the other side. At any moment, I thought they would burst it open. I could not hear what was said. They seemed to be talking in their own hideous language. All I caught was, 'Gosh, that is fire.' Then something came into the chamber. I felt it through the door, and the orcs themselves were afraid and fell silent. It laid hold of the iron ring, and then it perceived me and my spell. What it was, I cannot guess, but I have never felt such a challenge. The counterspell was terrible. It nearly broke me. For an instant, the door left my control and began to open. I had to speak a word of command. That proved too great a strain. The door burst in pieces. Something dark as a cloud was blocking out all the light inside, and I was thrown backwards down the stairs. All the wall gave way, and the roof of the chamber as well, I think." So Gandalf, basically, while Gandalf is kind of helping them fight with sword and staff, he's also doing battle, like a spiritual kind of magical battle with this some presence that he's not sure what it is yet.
Right.
That's slowly approaching, that's slowly kind of stalking them and approaching them. And so, and he even says, that the normal things he was using weren't a match for it. And he spoke a word of command, which I suppose is like what he does later in the chapter when he, kind of musters his authority. It's almost like it's the spiritual authority to, to command evil to go back into its place.
Right.
But to do that, he's basically, I don't know, what do you think about that? Like, why is it so tiring? I have my thought, but before I just blurt it out,
why is it so tiring?
For him to speak this word of command right here. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, against why it took so much out of him.
Yeah. It proved too great a strain.
Well, obviously, what he was fighting against was just as powerful, if not more powerful than him. Mm-hmm. Right? He met his match, so to speak.
Yeah.
His evil counterpart, I guess. And it really took all that he had to try and defeat it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like an orc or even a chieftain or whatever. It was something huge and terrible and incredibly evil.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you were getting at or not, but
yeah.
It's just it's like a Jesus versus the devil thing, right? It's kind of the ultimate battle of good versus evil.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking though that it's more like because Jesus is God, right? So I was thinking maybe it's more like some non-god like prophet trying to do, you know, like battle, but
like an imitator.
Like it's like, but to summon this word of command against such a powerful dark force, requires you to almost like be this channel for, you know, this divine like energy or something like that. This great divine energy
against it.
Yeah. So, it's almost like being you put you're under strain because this energy passes through you that you don't normally have pass through you.
And that would make you tired as opposed to energize you?
For a moment. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how to explain it, but that's my hypothesis of why it's so straining on him.
It's like in the Harry Potter movies when Harry goes against Voldemort, right? He's got to be that channel for the good, you know, like just that spiritual energy or whatever that is, you know, that is able to defeat Voldemort.
Right.
So yeah, I guess maybe. I guess I was thinking that because I always remember how tired Harry is after those wand battles, but I don't know. I guess I feel like I guess I can see it either way. Like if you have that energy flowing through you, part of me feels like it would just like give you this, you know, like shot of adrenaline, right, and kind of fill you with something that you're not used to feeling, and so it would kind of have the opposite effect, right? But then on the other side, again, if it's something that's stronger than your body is used to handling, then it would also have that flip side reaction of exhausting you.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
and just the emotional stress, I think, would take a toll. You know, I mean, Gandalf, I think, feels very much responsible for all the people in this party. He knows that he can protect them better than any of them can protect themselves.
Right.
Because of who he is and the power that he has. So I just think that weight in and of itself would be very exhausting. So. Yeah.
Well, and I kind of think of it like, you know, this just popped into my head when I was talking about it. Because, you know, to your point, it's like, well, shouldn't having this divine force kind of flowing through him be a thing that gives him life? But I was thinking about it like, you know, when you're engaged in prayer or like when I go to mass sometimes, if I'm like fully participating in the mass, if I'm like putting myself into it, it is a little bit exhausting. Like if you're not just sitting there like kind of just letting it all happen, like letting it flow by, it's exhausting in a good way, you know. In the sense that like it is a work that you participate in, you know. You know, we talk about making things like doing things like making an act of faith, right? Making an act of hope, and you know, I was thinking about this presence as like a spiritually oppressive presence. You know, it's like it's not just that these are evil creatures fighting against them, but it's almost like this is a shadow of oppression, you know, like coming over them, like it's breaking their spirits, it's breaking their will to keep up the fight and keep pushing ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just trying to kind of cloud over them,
right?
In a spiritual.
So it's sucking that.
Yeah, that spiritual will, not necessarily the physical vigor, but the spiritual vigor,
right?
That enables them to keep fighting even when things are toughest, right?
Yep.
That it's that little blaze of fire that causes Frodo to shout the Shire, right?
That's what that thing is trying to
squelch out.
Yeah,
right?
Trying to take from them. Yeah.
And so Gandalf has to.
He's got a lot of things he's fighting against.
Yeah. Simultaneously.
I do think it's funny though how he's talking about it after everything that happened when he was at the top of the stairs, and it's like this big incredible scene. But what I thought was funny was when he comes back down the stairs, all he says is, well, that's over.
Yeah.
Like, not like, woo, I need a drink, or, okay, guys, let me just rest for a minute. It's like, oh, that's over, moving on.
Yeah.
But that's a gift in and of itself, just to be able to keep moving forward after an incident like that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah. It's Gandalf has lots of funny reactions to various various situations.
Yes.
Gandalf is a character.
He is.
So they keep moving forward, and they enter this great another great hall. It's the second hall of Old Moria, and the gates are near, they say. But Gandalf says, "There is some new devilry here, devised for our welcome, no doubt. But I know now where we are. We have reached the first deep, the level immediately below the gates. This is the second hall of Old Moria, and the gates are near. Away beyond the eastern end, on the left, not more than a quarter of a mile. Across the bridge, up a broad stair, along a wide road, through the first hall and out. But come and look." They peered out. Before them was another cavernous hall. It was loftier and far longer than the one in which they had slept. They were near its eastern end. Westward it ran away into darkness. Down the center stalked a double line of towering pillars. They were carved like boles of mighty trees, whose boughs upheld the roof with a branching tracery of stone. Their stems were smooth and black, but a red glow was darkly mirrored in their sides. Right across the floor, close to the feet of two huge pillars, a great fissure had opened. Out of it a fierce red light came, and now and again flames licked at the brink and curled around the bases of the columns. Wisps of dark smoke wavered in the hot air. So, I mean, this is, just the scope of what the dwarves were able to build under this mountain is pretty...
It's amazing.
Pretty incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it really does, even though it's, like, been abandoned all this time, and... but, just these... I mean, it's like it's an underground city,
Yeah.
And just, they built these huge pillars that look like trees upholding the roof and everything.
Yeah.
Just amazing skill, and...
Seems like the orcs had to come and ruin it all.
Yeah. Well,
Low lives.
that's what they do.
I know.
And then they recognize that they have to get across this bridge, and the dwarves had built a bridge across this. They basically created this chasm and then built this very narrow one person at a time
the
bridge.
dwarves created the chasm?
Well, so, all right, where is it? Let's see.
I don't know.
Suddenly Frodo saw before him a black chasm. At the end of the hall, the floor vanished and fell to an unknown depth. The outer door could only be reached by a slender bridge of stone without curb or rail. I don't know that they built it, but they, instead of building a huge bridge over this chasm, they had just built a single file bridge, narrow bridge, without any rails or anything as a defense. Right.
So the chasm was there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was there when the dwarves were there, because they would have.
I guess so.
They knew they had to build it. So was it a defense?
They built the bridge. They'd kept the chasm in place as a defense against on the eastern side, right?
I see.
To prevent
I see the
attack from being able to come over more than one at a time.
I see. And so they
built
this
single file
little bridge over the chasm.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was confused. At first, I thought the orcs had devised this or whatever, or the evil powers had devised this chasm, right, to fight against the Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was confused. I was like, but why would the bridge be there? So that makes sense. The chasm was there before the Fellowship even showed up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the chasm was there, right? The chasm was not a new thing.
Well, I don't know, but the bridge itself. I mean, the bridge was constructed because there was a chasm here. I don't know how the chasm got there.
Okay, but it was not. I thought that the orcs that had attacked them had somehow caused this chasm to happen.
Mm-mm.
I see. Okay.
No. So they're crossing the bridge, and Gandalf last, and that's when this presence that Gandalf had felt catches up to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we'll go ahead and read this a little bit. Do you want to read this, starting with Legolas turned?
Okay. Legolas turned and set an arrow to the string, though it was a long shot for his small bow. He drew, but his hand fell, and the arrow slipped to the ground. He gave a cry of dismay and fear. 2 great trolls appeared. They bore great slabs of stone and flung them down to serve as gangways over the fire. But it was not the trolls that had filled the elf with terror. The ranks of the orcs had opened, and they crowded away as if they themselves were afraid. Something was coming up behind them. What it was could not be seen. It was like a great shadow, in the middle of which was a dark form, of man shape maybe, yet greater, and a power and terror seemed to be in it and to go before it. It came to the edge of the fire, and the light faded as if a cloud had bent over it. Then with a rush it leaped across the fissure. The flames roared up to greet it and wreathed about it, and a black smoke swirled in the air. Its streaming mane kindled and blazed behind it. In its right hand was a blade like a stabbing tongue of fire. In its left it held a whip of many thongs. Aye! Wailed Legolas. A Balrog has come! Gimli stared with wide eyes. Durin's bane! He cried, and letting his axe fall, he covered his face. A Balrog, muttered Gandalf. Now I understand. He faltered and leaned heavily on his staff. What an evil fortune, and I am already weary.
Yeah, so...
Just can't catch a break.
And what's interesting about the Balrog is it's described as being like a great shadow.
But having like a man figure in it.
Yeah, in the middle of which was a dark form of man shape, maybe yet greater. So it's interesting to think about how this is depicted in the Peter Jackson film.
I don't remember.
It's like a big demon, basically. It's like a big fiery demon.
Okay.
With demon horns and everything.
Right. Yeah, okay. Okay.
But here it's depicted as like this just man-shaped shadow. Like, large man-shaped shadow. Like it looks like a big man, but it's a shadow.
Yep.
Now, the fire does wreath about it, but it's not... The fire doesn't seem to be connected to the Balrog itself. The fire just seems to be kind of like... Almost like a trail behind it.
It's almost like this thing is a magnet for the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's much more of a dark, oppressive...
cloud of evil.
Yeah, but it does have these weapons. It has in its right hand a blade like a stabbing tongue of fire, and its left a whip of many thongs. And... the Balrogs were creations. And they show up in the Silmarillion a couple of times, if you remember. So
yes, I do remember that actually.
They were minions of Morgoth, right?
Yep.
So this is a pretty strong creature. This isn't just like another orc or something like that. This is this is one of the one of Morgoth's greatest weapons, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right. This is a worthy foe for Gandalf.
And this is what he was fighting at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Gandalf says, "Over the bridge, fly. This is a foe beyond any of you. I must hold the narrow way. Fly." The Balrog reaches the bridge. Gandalf stood in the middle of the span, leaning on the staff in his left hand, but in his other hand Glamdring gleamed, cold and white. His enemy halted, facing him, and the shadow about it reached out like 2 vast wings. It raised the whip, and the thongs whined and cracked. Fire came from its nostrils, but Gandalf stood firm. "You cannot pass," he said. The orc stood still, and a dead silence fell. "I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. You cannot pass. The dark fire will not prevail you, flame of Udun. Go back to the shadow. You cannot pass." And then the Balrog made no answer. The fire in it seemed to die, but the darkness grew. It stepped forward slowly on the bridge, and suddenly it drew itself up to a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall. But still Gandalf could be seen, glimmering in the gloom. He seemed small and altogether alone, gray and bent like a wizened tree before the onset of a storm. They battle briefly, and
Aragorn
yeah
comes back, right? Because he wants to help, and he shouts. Well, he says he cannot stand alone.
Right.
Cried Aragorn, and then he shouts, "Elendil, I am with you, Gandalf." And then here's where Boromir cries, "Gondor!" and leaped after him.
Mm-hmm.
So they both come to his aid against Gandalf's orders.
Right.
So what is Elendil? What is that?
I should have looked it up. I know the word. I'm trying to think of what it is.
Is it a place, or is it a thing, or a person? Is it a person, place, or thing?
Elendil. Elendil was the father of Isildur and Anarion, and the first High King of Gondor and Arnor, and the first King of all the Dunedain. So, this is Aragorn's great grandfather.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Aragorn and Boromir both try to stand up and help him, but Gandalf breaks the bridge so that the Balrog falls.
Right.
And plunges. But of course, the Balrog's whip manages to grab Gandalf on the way down and pull him down.
This, I gotta say, is probably, if not my most favorite, one of my most favorite scenes in the entire movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like so. I think it's really well done.
Yeah, even though they don't get the Balrog quite right.
They don't get the Balrog quite right. They totally get.
I don't hate what they do. I understand why they did it, but I think it would have been cool to see how they would have handled something more shadowy.
Yeah.
More in line with the description in the book, but overall, yeah, I think the scene's done pretty well.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about this, the secret fire, the wielder of the flame of Anor, right? Did you know what to make of that?
Oh, what Gandalf says to him?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
So, I don't know if you remember, but if you go back to Ainulindale and what is it? Valaquenta in the Silmarillion, the beginning of the Silmarillion.
Yes, right.
The secret fire is this thing that is possessed by Eru, by Iluvatar, right?
Oh,
so it's this. The secret fire is the thing that gives life to like all of creation, all of Iluvatar's creation, right? Okay. So it's this. It's almost like the life-giving force of Iluvatar, right?
So why would Gandalf be a wielder of that flame? Is he calling himself an Ainur here?
Well, he is, right? He's a Maiar. Gandalf is a Maiar. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Go back to Valaquenta, right? It talks about...
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I forget the name it uses for him there. It might be
Olorin.
Completely
forgotten. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. Okay.
But in addition, he's the wielder of the flame of Anor, which Anor is a name for the true west or Valinor. Okay. He also has the ring of one of the 3 elvish rings, right? So you remember there's the 3 rings for the elves, the elf lords, the 7 rings for the dwarf lords, and then the 9 rings for the kings of men, right?
Right.
And that are connected to the one ring. But the 3 elf rings are not... Sauron is never able to control those with the one ring when all the rings are created.
Right.
So Gandalf was given the ring. There's basically a ring of fire, a ring of water, and a ring of air. That are the elvish rings. And Gandalf is given the ring of fire by Círdan the shipwright when he first comes to Middle Earth. Okay, because he perceives the mission that he's on. So Gandalf is possessor of this ring of fire as well, which is possessed with some kind of significant spiritual power.
Okay.
And he refers to the Balrog as the flame of Udun,
right?
Which is another word for Utumno, which was the first fortress of Morgoth, right? That was destroyed before even the elves had come to Valinor.
Yes, got it. Okay.
So Gandalf is basically summoning like the very power of Iluvatar.
Yeah, he's going to the top of the chain of the command.
Oh yeah,
boom.
Yeah, this is like the nuclear option for Gandalf.
Yes.
It's like,
and it works.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, that just shows you what a powerful foe this is.
I mean, it doesn't get rid of him completely, but it obviously has the desired effect.
Right.
On the Balrog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But alas, Gandalf is lost.
Yeah.
Falls into darkness along with the Balrog.
But not before he can yell, "Fly, you fools!"
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great last words.
Mm-hmm. Very, very Gandalfish.
Yes, absolutely.
Last words.
Get out of here, you idiots!
Yeah.
Gosh!
What are you waiting for, you dummies? Come on, leave. Gosh.
You want to be next? Get out of here. So he's gone, and then Aragorn takes charge.
Yeah.
Let's go.
He leads them the rest of the way.
Yep.
And they finally escape out of Moria. Out of the gates they ran and sprang down the huge and age-worn steps, the threshold of Moria. Thus at last they came beyond hope, under the sky, and felt the wind on their faces. They did not halt until they were out of bowshot from the walls. Dimmeril Dale lay about them. The shadow of the misty mountains lay upon it, but eastwards there was a golden light on the land. It was but 1 hour after noon. The sun was shining, the clouds were white and high. They looked back. Dark yawned the archway of the gates under the mountain shadow. Faint and far beneath the earth rolled the slow drum beats. Doom. A thin black smoke trailed out. Nothing else was to be seen. The dale all around was empty. Doom. Grief at last wholly overcame them, and they wept long. Some standing in silence, some cast upon the ground. Doom. Doom. The drum beats faded. So, yes.
Another sad cliffhanger.
Yeah, very sad. Yeah, so if you don't have the map in your book, but basically they are they've come out right here. They came in over here. Mm-hmm. So here's Rivendell. They traveled down the west side of the Misty Mountains. They entered the Moria Gate, and they came out in Dimmeril Dale, right next to Lorien.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. So
quite a journey.
Quite a journey, but still a long way to go before Mordor.
A long way to go. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So it's haiku time.
Woohoo! I kind of like that we've mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a little carrot now that we're hanging out for our listeners.
Yeah. Well. Exactly.
Something to look forward to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we know everybody just listens for Tolkien haiku. It's the only thing they listen for. Yeah.
And probably not even for ours. Probably for super fans and
exactly
other awesome listeners.
Yeah.
Woot woot. Let's do this.
All right. So, us first, or do we do others?
What did we do last time? I can't remember.
I think we did everybody else first.
Did we? Okay. Should we do ours first this time then?
Sure. All right.
Okay.
Quiet, rock, paper, scissors.
Quiet. Super quiet.
Yes.
You ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Darn it.
All right.
Darn it. Rats.
Darn.
Who's going first?
You go first.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go first. I wrote 2, but I'll just read one of them. Alright. Doom. You shall not pass. Doom. A Balrog. A wizard. Fly on, you fools. Doom.
Doom.
Doom. It was like repeated like a million times in the chapter. I had to use it in my haiku.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Right on.
You know you liked it.
Yeah.
You're just jealous you didn't do the same thing.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You want to hear mine now?
I mean, I guess if you can even start to compare with mine.
Doom.
Doom.
Doom. Doom.
Doom.
Doom.
Dude, it was like the
Doom,
theme
doom,
of the
boom.
chapter. They should have just called the chapter
doom.
Doom.
Doom. Doom.
Doom,
Boom.
doom, doom. Oh, come on. There is more to it than that.
That's my haiku.
Repetition. It's just Doom. 5
lines
syllables of Doom.
5
7
syllables of
syllables of Doom. And then 5 more syllables of Doom.
I threw a couple of booms in there.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll accept it then.
And then the last one was boom, question mark.
Wait, you're making fun of my haiku.
Yeah, just messing around.
I liked my haiku. And I bet lots of the listeners did too.
I did too.
I just keep it real. That's what I do.
Right on.
I don't try to get all like heady and fancy.
Well, I do.
I just tell the people what they want to hear.
I like making mine extra fancy.
You know?
Listen up.
I'm doom, okay.
Listen up, all you peoples.
Doom.
Clothed in flame, Balrog, shadow over hope. Yet for Eru's flame, no match.
It's alright.
It's the best haiku ever. What are you talking
Pretty
about?
good. That's pretty good. I like the shadowy flame or whatever you said.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
All right. Now we need to get to our guest haiku.
Guest haiku!
So we don't have one from Josh. Josh, I think Josh said he was going to be out and about, not able to communicate much during the month of July. So yeah,
off adventuring, no doubt.
Yeah.
Maybe he went to Middle Earth.
So have fun. We expect a full report on your summer vacation when you get back.
Yep. In haiku
form.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Doom, doom, boom. I had fun. All right, so we got 2 from Mary Grace and 2 from Rob F. Rob Fangman. So
awesome.
All right, we'll go with Mary Grace first.
All right.
Gosh, Doom, Durin's bane becomes Mithrandir's bane. Last command: fly, you fools.
See, Mary Grace and I,
Yeah,
we are like on this. We also used fly, you fools.
There you go. Actually, you said something like...
I said fly on because I needed another syllable.
Just go and change the words.
I do. Well, I just added.
Yeah.
I mean, it just enhanced. I just made it better.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
On, you fools.
That's awesome, Mary Grace.
Good job.
I'm glad that we were like on the same wave.
I'm glad you used the words Gandalf actually said instead of adding a word in.
Whatever.
Yeah.
He wanted to say it. He just didn't have time.
Gotta get you fools in there, so I'll just drop the on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Fools is more important than on, so.
All right. And then her second one is, we cannot get out. Thus ends Balin's reign in Moria. They have come.
Very good.
Yes.
Well done, Mary Grace, as usual.
And then Rob, thanks for contributing. Continuing to contribute.
Yes, thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Rob did too as well.
Awesome.
Cloaked in fire and fear, a shadow that no dwarf made. Balrog, Durin's bane.
Ooh. Oh, can I ask real quick? What does that mean, Durin's bane?
Durin was like the he was the one that established Moria originally. Okay. He was the dwarf father that established Moria originally. Okay. Durin is kind of a weird figure. He's basically like the father of the dwarves, or the first dwarf. Although there were a group of dwarves originally created.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a really weird, convoluted. It's way too weird to get into right now. But like basically, Durin is like this figure that like he was the first great dwarf, and then like he died, and then there were other dwarves that came along that were supposed to be reincarnations of him.
Okay.
So it's weird, but remember the dwarves are weird anyway because they were created by Aule, and not by they're not children of Iluvatar. They're children of Aule.
Right.
Right.
They were going behind the back.
Yeah, they're kind of adopted children of Iluvatar in a way, but which means that they're kind of messed, like, you know.
They're not
They're
normal.
weird.
Yeah.
They're different from elves
than the other creations of Iluvatar. Yeah. Okay. And a bane, obviously, like the bane of someone's existence is like a sword in your side.
That just means it was what Durin's downfall.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good haiku, Rob.
Yeah, right on.
I dig it. And what's the second one?
And then the second one, Gandalf, Mithrandir, Tharkin and once Olorin, to all a true friend. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Good old Gandalf.
Are those like his different names?
Yes.
Okay.
I've never heard Tharkin. I know the other three. I've never heard the name Tharkin.
To all a true friend.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. I think Gandalf was like maybe Tolkien's favorite of his own creations in a way.
I can see why.
I think Gandalf was just this figure that like Tolkien almost really wished existed.
That's what I thought you were gonna say, because I was thinking. I think Gandalf may have been a creature that Tolkien wished he could be.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, it's interesting. This just occurs to me, but like Tolkien's father died when he was very young, so he barely knew him, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, Gandalf is almost like this.
Like
father
the ultimate
figure.
father figure.
Exactly.
Yeah, who everybody would want their father to be if they could choose a father.
He's a wise father. He's not like a young father who's like, makes mistakes and, he's like this old, wise, fatherly figure who's tough.
And still wicked cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, can enjoy a good pipe and...
Yes. And make fireworks.
Yeah, and loves all that is good and, hates all that is evil and...
yeah, the ultimate defender. Yeah, he's pretty much the complete package.
But he's not like macho, he's just,
He's feel very humble.
Yeah. And... Yeah, that's the thing. At some point we'll do, we'll talk just about, we're going to do like talks about various characters just in general, about their whole background as Tolkien's described it in various works.
Nice.
Gandalf is one of the most interesting.
Yeah. He definitely has the most interesting history.
Yeah.
Well, he's been around the longest of any of the characters in here. Besides Sauron, maybe.
Well, and Saruman.
And Saruman, yeah. Right.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Good stuff.
Totally good stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear from some more folks next time for Haiku. By the way, so I want to start, in the interest of kind of making the recording load a little bit easier every month. I was thinking we would start doing like 2 episodes at a time, you and I.
Oh.
So I want to record for chapters 2, 6, and 2, 7 next week. So that's Lothlorien, and they're still going to be separate episodes, but we'll record them at the same time.
We're on the same day.
And
okay.
So 2.6 is Lothlorien, and then 2.7 is the Mirror of Galadriel. So what that means is that if you want to submit haiku for those, please try to have them in by Wednesday, July 6th. Please try to have them to me by Wednesday, July 6th.
So don't party too hard on July 4th.
That's right.
Because you need to, get your stuff in.
Yeah, especially Greg UK. I don't think he's going to be partying at all on July 4th. So,
probably not. Well, probably Rob not either, right?
Yeah,
doesn't he live in the Netherlands?
No. Rob might be from the UK. I can't remember. But you're thinking of Lars.
Oh, okay.
Lars Werkman.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
He's
I got
Netherlands.
Fangman and Werkman mixed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fangman.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I keep saying your name, Fangman, and is it Fangman? How do you pronounce it? I'd just like to know how you pronounce it. I like to get people's, I don't know, and Tolkien was such a stickler for pronunciation and words and everything. I want to make sure I have people's names right. So,
I think...
how do you say it, Rob? Let me know. Send me a comment, send me an email. Just let me know how you pronounce it. So I don't feel like a goofball every time I say it wrong or think I'm saying it wrong.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, so if you want to have haiku for the next 2 episodes on Lord of the Rings, please try to have them in by Wednesday, July the 6th.
Yeah. Do it.
All right, Greta. Any other things you wanted to discuss?
No, I think I'm good. That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk at you next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On the next episode, we'll continue our discussion of The Lord of the Rings with Book 2, Chapter 6, Lothlorien. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.